Hari Om. Hari Om. We just had a downpour here, so I had to move my little table, hoping that it's not tripping on the computer now from the leaves. But the rain is over, the sun shines again, so let's see how it goes. Is there anyone who would like to start our conversation? Please come in. Okay. Nobody ready to talk? Then I shall talk about something that is very actual. It's amazing how people are emotionally involved about what's going on in America right now, around the world. It's simply amazing. Tempers are flaring, accusations are being made. But as I said yesterday to a friend who lives there in the midst of it, why are you so concerned? Of course, on the material level, one can think it makes a big difference whether now this one is elected or that one is elected. This one is good, that one is not good, the opposite. But after all, this world is a Leela. We are here to learn, each one in their own story. Each one facing moment to moment, the pleasant, the unpleasant, all the confrontations that come, all the challenges that come with every moment. We are here to learn, to grow, to outgrow, getting out of this game, of this play, of a human life much richer. No need of taking this kind of events so serious. Of course, on its own level, it deserves its own attention, but no need of getting emotionally so involved. In the new situation, one adapts again to what is going on. We can have the faith that ultimately somehow everything always fits into a cosmic tapestry. Even if things are happening, we are not happy about it on this relative level. Okay? We adjust to the situation and each one can make the best out of it. Let's not fill the space of this world with worries, more worries. Make yourself peaceful, calm. And the more you do that, the more slowly or immediately, but generally it comes slowly and gradually is increasing and becomes aware of the joyousness of simple existence. The more we dive into that, the more something very beautiful is radiating through you and you are filling up the space with something constructive that is helping much more, that is bringing much more to this world than worrying about who is being elected, what's going to happen after that. And of course, for you, the whole experience changes. The life becomes a playful adventure, being aware of the joyousness of existence in it. And then we can even in this crazy world be happy. And not simply be happy, desperately trying to squeeze out some happiness from somewhere, but in that joyousness of existence, something very beautiful grows and unfolds. So don't you worry, my friends, what is happening now over there. It's part of the Leela of this world. We don't have to take it so serious, but make the best out of our own situation wherever we are, whatever we are doing. That's the most constructive way we can spend our time and the most beneficial way for the whole rest of the world. Okay, is there now anybody who would like to come in? Please come.
Hello, Werner.
Hello, Sridev.
You said we are here to learn, for learning.
Yes.
But what is here to learn something? Because if we consider this manifestation is an illusion, and we are already complete, and what is learning finally? Is it what we call the soul, and what is the soul? Is it real?
That which makes this question possible, that is real. That where this question is coming from, that is real. You can call the world an illusion, but it's just one way to talk about the mystery. You cannot call the world non-existent. It's there as a matrix, as a magic show, where we tuning in with our consciousness and have our experiences. You cannot call it non-existent. Simply our idea of reality, sometimes it's good to think, oh, it's an illusion. It's not as real as it appears. Now, you're asking, but what is learning? You are learning. Not you, the person, that you think the person is just a momentary offshoot. A momentary offshoot for a lifetime. But you are a being. You can call it soul. I'm not using usually the word soul because people use that word in so many different ways. So it's rather creating confusion. Everybody calls something else soul. That's why I'm not using that word. But you are a being. It's not that it's only the person, or then it's abstract beingness. In that beingness, in that oneness, there are myriads and myriads of beings. Not separate from the whole rest, and yet unique and beautiful. And you are a being like that, that has projected itself, at least an aspect of itself, into this matrix, into this magic show, into this world. And this aspect of your being, while growing up, starts to look at itself as me. I am this person, this Gregory, this Sridev. But it's only a role that you are playing. And that being that you are is getting enriched from moment to moment by everything that you are experiencing. Now, if we are identifying with the person, that role that we are playing in this theater, in this world, then usually that process is quite painful and also very slow. Because identified with the person, then immediately we create that wall, that sense of separation. There is me inside, there is the whole rest outside, and it's continuously a struggle. But you are not this person. And if we become aware that this person is just a role that we are playing, then it's a play. And the learning process is so much more powerful, because then you start to somehow getting enriched in every moment by any damn little ordinary thing. We're just watching a bird taking off from a tree, listening to the wind rustling the leaves. Everything is somehow enriching continuously. This is a fantastic possibility, this world. If we stop creating all this mental trouble, this sense of separation, then just being here from moment to moment is a very enriching experience, and this being that you are is getting richer. Essentially, it doesn't change. Essentially, you are that. Essentially, you are that impersonal beingness. And yet, that being is getting somehow richer and more powerful and more ecstatic simply to be. That's what we are coming here for, so no point in taking all the little details that are happening so serious. Our job is just to unlearn that identification that we have learned while growing up. That total identification that for so long we have not questioned. I am this person. Of course I am this person. I know that I am this person. The identification is so strong that if we don't slowly observe this and get deeper, then the very idea of not being this person seems to be absurd. And one is completely blocking and reacting against that. Because of that, it seems to be so difficult to get rid of that identification. But once we go about it, gradually it's easing up, and then eventually it becomes simple. Who is learning? You are learning, but not the person. The person is an instrument through which you are experiencing the whole rest of this manifestation, the whole rest of this matrix, of this magic matrix. The person is a channel through which you connect, but you are learning. I mean, learning is also a word that we are attaching so much meaning to it, meaning going to school, learning information and stuff, but learning is more a process of getting richer and growing and unfolding, when I say in this context, learning.
And the concept of reincarnation, is it true or just a belief?
That person is just once. That person is a role that you're playing. When the curtain falls, the role is over. And that's that. But you are not that person. And you as a being are not even really incarnated now. You're just projecting yourself for some time, and then you can project yourself again. And the new projection is not that that new person that may form is a reincarnation of the old person, but still, I mean, there is a special connection because it's projected out of that same being. And sometimes it can happen that lateral from one manifestation to another, some connection may happen and people say, I'm remembering previous lives. So it's true and it's not true. Because even now we are not incarnated. So how do you want to reincarnate?
Everything that we see is only illusory and a projection.
I mean, it is there. It has the power that it sucks the consciousness in and creates experiences. It's simply not that solid, that real, that we think it is if we are not questioning it.
It's like playing a game or watching a movie.
In a way, it's a similar like a virtual space where you can get into. Now you can get into three-dimensional virtual spaces and interact with people. You know, it's not real and yet still the experience is there. And this is not exactly the same because it's more powerful, much more aspects are included than in these virtual games, but it's not so totally different. It's like we are tuning into this mystery of this manifestation and producing our own experiences and many similar leveled consciousnesses. Does it exist? They are tuning in, and together we are keeping that reality intact, apparently so totally real. It's not an illusion, but it's not real either. It's not so real as we think it is. If we stop taking it as so solid reality, already it becomes much easier to have the proper proportion, the proper relationship with it. It's much more important than that we learn to be awake, consciously conscious, consciously in that timelessness of the now and experiencing what we are experiencing, acting our role, then being so totally identified, half asleep most of the time, and then worrying about so many details, which could be better, this could be better, this is not good, this, and so many things.
I start to think, because if I do believe to the individual being, I'm not fully free from this illusion somehow. Because if I consider this intermediate state of being, I'm not really in this fullness of the absolute and no separation and the fullness.
It's simply the mind that is creating this, because being an individual, then we think there is separation. Because as long as I'm identifying with the person, then I'm creating that sense of separation, that I'm separate from everybody else, separate from the world, and somehow I have to fight my way through that. But that's the mystery. You are a unique being, and yet there is no separation. You are all one, and in that all oneness, there is also a uniqueness. That uniqueness doesn't create separation, but more enrichment.
Okay.
Don't try too much to grasp it with the mind. The mind is formed with our personal experience and projects that to something that is prior to the person, and we cannot grasp it. And what I'm telling is also just somehow a vague pointer to something very mysterious, but yet very beautiful. Don't be afraid of, because I say there is a being, then somehow that prevents you from the absolute. The very concept we have of an absolute is also a creation of the mind. We create the idea of something relative, and then we have to have that opposite and call it the absolute. And in that mind, we have to have that idea. It must be totally unchanging because the relative is changing all the time. But this is also all ideas that we are creating, and that mentally created absolute is not that absolute, not so absolutely absolute. It's only relatively absolute as a projection, as an opposite to our relativity.
So to know the absolute, we can only be the absolute, correct? Or is even more deeper?
To know what you are, you have to be what you are. And don't call it the absolute, because it's again a concept that we are creating. Just don't create any concept. Come back to that beingness and be open and astonished like a child. and let your experience dive into that.
So then it's happened by itself.
It happens by itself.
Yeah. Okay.
We have to learn not to prevent it all the time.
Yes.
That's the job.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om. If anybody wants to come in, please come. Well, in the context what we just discussed, I'm always encouraging people to practice something, to have every day, if possible, some time where we are not busy, where we can put our undivided attention in just being conscious, consciously conscious, being here now. How we are doing that, whether we are using a technique, whether we are using a traditional technique, or whether we are creating our own ways of going about it, it doesn't matter. And I'm always urging people, keep it up. Don't give it up completely. Do more if you have more time, if you have more inspiration, and you can reduce it if you have less time, if you have less inspiration, but try not to give it up at all. But then, in the context of what I said, if you are that being, then why should you practice? Very simple. Practicing will not somehow produce self-realization. Practicing and self-realization is not so connected as many practitioners think. The practice is a means to become more awake. And by becoming more awake and alert, you become aware of what obstacles we are creating all the time. What obstacles we are creating in the mind naturally, having grown up in circumstances where this seems to be the normal way of existence. It's simply the usual way of existence, but as the whole world is functioning like this, we are sucked into that usual way of existence and creating all these barriers, creating all these identifications. And if we don't start to stop sometimes and have a good look at it, then we are not even aware that we are doing it and creating obstacles all the time from that simple, natural existence. And practice is not to bring about that simple, natural existence. Practice helps us, gives us insight. Practice helps us to become aware what's going on. But of course, with practice, we have also be alert that we really learn to look at ourselves. We can practice techniques and go on day after day, month after month, years after years, practice, but not take the trouble of looking at ourselves honestly, closely. Practice has two aspects. On one hand, it is purifying, but only if we really take the trouble to look at ourselves, then the practice helps us to become clearer. It has another aspect, it builds up energy. And if there is more energy at our disposal, then it's becoming easier to be alert. But it's not just a question of building up power until we break through something. Eventually you may have certain experiences which may be a result of all that practice. But if we don't take the trouble to really bring the attention back to the self and see how we are functioning and see how much we are keeping on creating obstacles, creating tensions, creating contradictions, and through the identification with that person role that we are playing, creating that sense of separation, all these are obstacles from simply being in our natural state. And practice helps us to see those obstacles and to, but after seeing them, by seeing them, gradually remove them. That's the job. It's not that we have to achieve reality. Reality is here now. It's timeless. It's never absent. It's not that we have to become the self. You are that self. You are that divine being. You have never been anything else. It's not by way of practice that you have to become that divine being. It's here, it's now, but our consciousness, our habitual way of experiencing has been so hypnosed in that role. I'm this person, I'm so and so, I have all these limitations, I'm separate from everybody else. And then with our habitual character, with our reactions, we create all that love and hate, and I want this and I want the other, and simultaneously I don't want. All that stuff creates limitations, creates obstacles. And practice helps us to see through it. Practice gives us insight. Practice builds up energy, and with that help of that build up energy, then it's becoming easier. But if we don't take the trouble to have a good, honest look at ourselves, then we can practice and practice and practice, and energy builds up, and then in a way we are building up the positive aspect, that which would help us to be natural, but we also building up, giving more strength to the negative aspect, to that which always creates obstacles. So along with the practice, that introspection is necessary. Not introspection in the sense that we have to analyze and analyze and analyze and not ever stopping analyzing, but just have a good, honest look at ourselves and see how we are functioning, see how the mind is functioning, see what kind of emotions that come and how we are hooking into them and make them stronger and stronger and creating problems in that way. All right. I stop talking now. Anybody wants to come in, please? Please come in. How many people are here? 33 people. Not one wants to talk about something? You want me to continue giving lectures?
Hello, Werner.
Hello, hello.
It's Helen.
Helen, yes. Hello, Helen.
Hello. Talking about obstacles.
Yes.
I've got the opportunity again of having a week looking after someone's house. So I'm in retreat again.
I see.
And yeah, and like this morning I was feeling kind of trying to meditate and feeling sorry for myself that I'm powerless, a victim of circumstance and overwhelmed.
Yeah, right.
And came like suddenly, am I? And it just felt so strongly.
Yeah.
This was just a belief.
Yeah.
And the sense that this was not true was very strong.
Yes.
And there came like a real opening in my heart that I'm not that. I'm not powerless and a victim of circumstance and overwhelmed. It's just a belief, a huge belief. And for a while it felt very good, but now, right in this moment actually, I feel nauseous and spaced out about it. Yeah. And I'm just wondering, is this mind's resistance to truth? I don't know, is mind's resistance, I don't know why I feel I should be feeling expansive and and instead I feel nauseous and spaced out. Yeah. So as we're talking about it, I thought I'd just take the opportunity, like, and I'm just wondering if is that a powerful mind resistance to truth? Is it something, I don't know.
Right, that is there. The mental resistance of letting go the usual way of functioning because it's giving a certain comfort because one is familiar with it. And then coming out of that comfort zone feels strange, although it should be just nothing but a relief. Then somehow because of that, it's not the usual way, there is that resistance to that. That is one thing. The other thing is also that the system has to somehow catch up. The system has to learn to deal with another way of experiencing because it gives another energy in your manifestation. So the body, the nervous system has to catch up. That's why most of the time when those moments come, those moments of insight and then after some time it's shutting down again and we are back in the usual way of functioning. And then often when that is happening, then people think, what did I do wrong? Why has that gone away again? It was not wrong. Somehow maybe your manifestation had not been ready to just stay with it. And the better way of looking at it, at least thank you very much for that moment, for that period of grace. At least it gives deep down, an opening, a knowing. It's true. I'm not this victim little person that I thought. I know, deep down, I know it's not true. Instead of simply believing it, it makes a difference. And it is making you ready, even if it's shutting down again for some time, it makes you ready quicker that it can open again. So treasure that experience, that insight that you had, and don't worry if now your system has to
Yes.
adjust a little. Don't try to do something about it, just relax and center as good as you can. That's the best way of supporting the process of adjustment.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. I think my body's adjusting. Yeah. All I want to do now is sleep.
Yeah, that is also good. Sleep is a good period where things can adjust. But when that comes, like what you described, there was something special, and then it's a strange feeling, and then often the mind thinks, I have to do something about it. Do this exercise, do that exercise, do something about it in order to set it right again. The best is, I mean, if spontaneously exercises come, or you have your regular exercise, you can do that. But the best help and the best support that this can harmoniously sort of assimilate the new situation is to, as good as possible, you just remain centered in the present, in the now, in the here, and relax. Relax, relax, relax. I keep on telling that.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I feel very,
Continue
yes, I
like
feel,
this.
yes, I feel very grateful to imbibe this, you know, to really feel the truth of it.
Yes, it's very nice. Great. I'm very
Thank
happy
you,
to hear
Werner.
that. Hari Om, Hari Om. Anybody else would like to come? Please come. Sometimes my picture may be shaking a bit because the wind is getting a little stronger, and then it shakes a bit my computer on my little table, on the cardboard box that I have put on my little table. So my world is shaking. This is such a wonderful opportunity to be in this world. This magic connection of consciousness, of the force of life, of the basic, limitless love of existence, connecting with a form that feels so totally solid and physical. It's a super wonderful opportunity. Just by being here, something magic, something beautiful is happening. And that being that is projecting into this world is getting richer with every moment, just because of experiencing this. And then, of course, in the daily life, there are so many beautiful things, so many happy moments, but so many not beautiful things, and so many confrontations with unpleasant things that continuous confrontation with that is an opportunity to, within short time, learn, grow, expand tremendously. For that, this world is perfect. On its own relative level, it's everything but perfect, but it's the perfect place for consciousness to really unfold and expand and get richer. So let's not waste our time worrying about all our little petty personal problems. Let life bring what it brings. We can direct it to some extent. Give an impulse here, give an impulse there. Direct the circumstances we are finding ourselves in to some little extent, but then accept them as they come. Let us not resist all the time if there are little aspects that we don't like so much, but simply learn to be conscious of that magic that is happening, that miracle that is happening all the time. Sometimes people ask me, and it's especially our Indian friends have asked me, can we develop powers? Can we, if we practice, can we do miracles? Why should we run after those kind of so-called miracles if that tremendous miracle is happening all the time? Just bring the attention back to that and become aware how amazing it is. Then in a way you become again like a child, in spite of having the possibility of discriminating, using the intellect where it's appropriate. The child doesn't have it, so it doesn't have the choice. But after that, unfortunately, we are letting that innocence that the child has getting buried more and more by developing our capacity to discriminate, to distinguish between this, between that, and it's not necessary. We can use that on its own practical, rational level and still touch again that natural sense of simply being, that sense of being here now, ready to live, ready to experience, astonished and innocent like a child. Simply by not holding on to all those barriers, all those obstacles that we have created in the mind, but learn to let them go. And the rest is there all by itself. So I'm talking again. Anybody wants to come in, please come. What I have been saying right now, this is true all the time, but it's also true that on top of that, something in this magic matrix is happening. If you look at what is happening, if you read the news, if you see on this material level, you can think, oh, why, what's happening is not, it's no fun at all in this world. And yet there is that pouring in of something very, very wonderful. So it's what I said before, it's a wonderful opportunity right at this moment. It's even especially so. Live the personal life, but be aware it's a theater that I'm playing, a role that I'm playing in this theater. We need not so much worry about the outcome of every action all the time. Learn to be more and more natural, and then things go on all by themselves, spontaneously, playfully. Plan if it's necessary. It's good to plan, but don't worry whether the plans are being fulfilled or not. We can plan, put impulses into the stream, and then sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work. Anybody wants to come in? Please come. If I keep on talking, then nobody wants to come in. Not, don't want to cut my talking, but you're most welcome to come in. If there are doubts in the mind, it's always good to talk about them. Oh, hello?
Victor,
I hardly hear you, Victor.
you can't hear me? Victor here can't hear me?
Yeah, very not very loud, but at the end I heard you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. But
Okay.
it's Helen, do you still have your microphone on? Can you please turn it off if it's still on? Then Victor's picture will become big. Anyhow, say something, Victor. We want to see you. We want to see you big.
I'm here.
Ah, yeah,
Hello.
there you are.
Thank you. Last week at the end of your talk, there was the machine going on.
Yes.
It was very loud.
Yes.
And yeah, and that day was a very special day for me because I was trying to talk about the fact that I walked this marathon and had all these physical experiences, and the machine was going on and behind your shed, and it was difficult to communicate on that day. I don't know what question I have to ask actually right now, except that the experience that I had felt and I'm experiencing at the moment is that the experience of my body is giving me a sense of reality, groundedness. I was so involved in the past in my yoga studies and everything, my meditation and looking for something else. And what I was trying to say last week amidst the machine in your background was that I found something concrete in my physical experience of myself through 8 hours of walking, and I found the connection with my body. I found the connection, a balance with my breath and the rhythm and that yoga, you know, the yoga stuff, breath, body, movement, connection. And I felt so relaxed. It made sense to me. But in the after hours, when I tried to think about the other aspects of my spiritual life, I feel so confused because I just don't understand spirituality. I don't understand spirituality. But I felt such a strong connection with my body last week, which is what I tried to communicate, that I felt comfortable with my inability to, you know, walk really fast, or my inability to go to sleep and not have a sore shoulder because it's a physical expression of my body. But all these things make so much sense to me because it's a real experience. And I'm trying to come to terms between, you know, after all my years of study of the spiritual world and the physical world. And I can tell you, I sort of understand the physical world, and I'm trying to correlate how can I find a path through these experiences. Let me tell you, Werner, I feel comfortable through the pain in my shoulder right now, far more than I feel with my confusion about spirituality, because I understand the pain in my shoulder.
Yeah.
And so my question to you is, there is always going to be, and I've listened to so many people talk through these satsangs, expressing their understandings, their experiences, and their beautifulnesses of life. And I'm just trying to correlate for myself. I feel this in my shoulder, and in the back of my mind, the spiritual life, I don't feel anything. And I just want you, if you know from your experiences, that you can sort of correlate that into some kind of spectrum that I could understand.
Do you remember last week already I told you, if you really put your attention to the body, then the physicality of it disappears. Then suddenly it's not more a physical body. Okay, if there is a place where there is strong pain, that feels physical. If you hit your arm on the table, that feels physical. But if you just bring your attention back to the body, you become aware it's not really as physical as it appears to be, if I'm not giving attention to it. I think you can very well keep that positive attitude you had last week, experienced while walking so much, and really bring your attention to your physical experience. Simply don't totally stop with the object of that attention, but you can think deeper with your attention, more and more become aware what is it that makes that whole experience possible. And this is not something that somebody can explain to you. And it's not either physical or spiritual, because from the spiritual standpoint, there is nothing that is not spiritual. So use your newly found connection to your physical experience, that you become aware it's not something bad that you somehow have to suppress or push away, but you can use it to become aware of the reality that you are experiencing something. That reality of the experience brings you to the timelessness, but then you can loosen up the fixation on the object that helped you to come to that awareness of reality, of being alive now, and just be open and let it happen and wait and see what happens.
Yeah, because, you know, the pain on my shoulder is actually not a problem.
Yeah,
It's not a problem.
that's great.
It's not a problem because it makes me feel alive.
Yeah.
So, it's more like I've come in only because nobody else had something to say. So I'm just fishing here. I'm just prodding. It's like, what can I say? I've always had a sense there is something greater.
Yeah.
But I love the pain in my body because it just brings me down to a sense of reality.
Well, reality,
And then,
as you said before, of being alive.
Yeah. And what I meant by a sense of reality was it just brings me down to ground zero right now. But at the same time, I know that 4 hours from now, after I go to sleep, I'm going to have these dreams and I'll be waking up at my time, 2, 3, 4 in the morning because all these things are happening in my head, which I have no control. Because last night it was dark, it was rainy, it was cloudy, and this white bird flew through the sky and it just it sliced across the sky, and it was so beautiful, Werner. And I have this image in my mind. Oh, you dog! Hello.
It's Mr. Leo this time.
Okay, now I'm going to stop talking. Now you've given me the
you can
medicine
continue.
I need. Hello.
Hey, Leo, you're online. They can
Hello,
see
Leo.
you. He's in Australia, this man. They can
And
see you in
actually,
Europe.
Werner, if I may share with the rest of the world right now, in Australia, we are so lucky. In Australia and New Zealand, we are so lucky and fortunate with this coronavirus situation.
Are you?
I feel so thankful about our situation right now, and I really feel for my favorite place in the world, in Tiruvannamalai and India and the rest of Europe and everywhere else. In Australia, we are really fortunate. And I'm really mindful of that and very aware of that at the same time. We're in a good place here.
Good.
How are you guys going? How are you guys going in there in Tiru at the moment?
Shall we go off now in that Corona story?
Okay, let's go. Yeah, sorry, I've interrupted too much.
No.
Thank you.
Anyhow, I can say it's, although the infections are still rising, in India the people became too restless, and then the government decided that they are opening up. So actually life is normalizing slowly a bit, somewhat. The people are happy to be allowed to move about again. But let's, Victor, you disappeared. Is that on purpose, or is there any mistake? Anyhow, I don't see Victor at all anymore. But actually, let me come back to what he has been talking about. Often then, especially in the Vedantic tradition, at least that happened to me when I was in the Vedantic tradition, I developed a very averse feeling towards my body. I thought, oh, it's something bad. Oh, it's just an obstacle. I want to get the hell out of this. I want to be unsubstantial. I want to be without limits. This body is so bad. And this need not be so. This body is not bad. This body is a fantastic, magnificent instrument through which that process of getting richer, of unfolding, can happen. Without this body, this couldn't happen. Not in this way. It can happen in other ways, but not in this way. Simply to be obsessed with the body, to be totally identified with the body and thinking that's what I am, meaning that's all that I am, that all my consciousness is just somehow a bit function of the brain, momentary there until the brain dies, but that of course is limiting very strongly, and that's why then in many spiritual traditions they rather urge you, don't you care about the body, the body is only the body, you are not the body. But the body is a fantastic instrument. Actually, the body is a divine temple, and it's more powerful than the temples that humans have constructed. But we should not be obsessed with the body in its own physical limitations. Be aware that the body is like the temple walls, and people have the tendency to put the body into the sanctum sanctorum, to worship the body, every aspect of it. Me, that's me and my appearance, and how do they like it, and being so always concerned about the image that we are giving and what others are thinking about, and the little kicks that we can get by indulging into sense perceptions. It's good to detach, to learn to detach from that, but we can very much bring the attention to the body, become aware. It's an expression of the self. It cannot be possibly separate from the self. It's an instrument that is magnificent. We can very much become. One way is to just ignore it, and I am consciousness, and just remain with that consciousness. But you can also use this physical experience and consciously dive into that physical experience. Simply don't get stuck and identify, I am the body, simply the body. The body is the expression, the body is through which this beautiful consciousness can function on this relative level. But of course, I'm also the body for some time, as long as that body exists in this form, but I'm so much more than the body. I am that which makes that body experience possible. If we bring the attention to the body in that way, the body is not an obstacle on our spiritual unfoldment. On the contrary, it can be integrated and wisely made an aspect of that process, consciously made an aspect of that process. Is there somebody else who wants to come in? It seems that the connection for Victor simply was cut off. So anybody else who wants to come, you are welcome. Please come in. Special day today. Sometimes it comes one question after the other pouring in. Today nobody wants to talk. It's fine. There is Sridev again. Hello.
Can I ask something more?
Yes, sure.
Yes, okay. I wonder if there is more direct pointing. Because if we are absolute, and if there is no
you come back with the absolute. Okay. Okay. If you are absolute.
Okay. Yes, and there is no separation.
Yeah.
But not in this manifestation, in another layer. And if there is no separation, and if we are already complete, can we consider that all this manifestation does not exist at all? So if we try to accumulate some experience or try to dissolve, or we still believe in this manifestation, and in some more, is there any other pointing more direct, like directly from the absolute, and consider that this movie does not exist at all, and there is no point about it, and go directly to consider that there is nothing to do, and it's already there.
But you cannot honestly, sincerely say that it doesn't exist at all. You are experiencing it. You can say, okay, it's maybe simply the reality of an experience, but you cannot possibly deny that. So it's not that this doesn't exist at all. It's simply not as real as it appears. Of course it exists, but it's not what most of the people think it is. It's not, this world is not non-existence. Your experience in it is not non-existence. Now, within this experience of a human, within this human experience, you have the waking state, you have the dream state, you have the deep sleep state. When you are in deep sleep, then the world disappears, it's gone. You are gone as Shridev, it's gone. But then when you are awake, whoop, Shridev is recreated again, and there you are again. Then you go to sleep and you dream, and maybe Shridev disappears, and yet you are there, playing maybe totally different role. While you are dreaming, it's there, it's real. You cannot say that real doesn't exist. That dream doesn't exist. The dream exists. Then when you wake up, you say, oh, it was just a dream. It was not real. But while you were experiencing it, that experience was real. Simply the scenario that we are creating in the dream, that I am a funny person there, and there are other persons there, and there are things totally separate from me, that is an illusion, because of course the dream comes all out of the same consciousness. It's connected, it's never separate. Even on this physical level, we are not separate. There is no separation. Everything is connected all the time in so many ways. A body has its own limitations, but then energetically we are totally connected with everything that is around us. Consciousness, the consciousness is connected with all the consciousness. So within this world and without the world, there is no real separation. And you can use anything to help any pointer, to help to bring the attention to that timelessness of the now. It's not that there is that absolute pointer, the destroyer of the world, that all is gone and you are out of it forever. There's nothing wrong that you are experiencing this human experience. There is nothing wrong with your experience. It does exist. It's not non-existent. It's not, there is the absolute and nothing exists. There is the essence. As I said before, I don't like the word absolute. There is the essence of existence, and that essence is expressing itself all the time in so many ways, and those expressions, they are not stable, they are not real in the sense that they stay on and on and on, but they are real as an experience, momentary expressions. They are there, they are momentary appearances, and as that they are real. And you can, in that momentary appearance, you can use an aspect, you can use a sensation, you can use any sensation. Focus on your smell, and you're right there, here, now. Focus on your hearing, and you're right here, now. There was a Zen master who was teaching his students nothing else but just inquire all the time, who hears, what hears? Just to help them to bring the attention to that living existence. You can use anything as a pointer. You can, for example, use the question, who am I? You can, for example, use just consciously breathe in, breathe out, and relax. What I'm telling all the time. But you can use anything. It's not that one pointer is better than the other, and if you simply would find the supreme pointer, then point once and it's done. We need that pointer again and again and again, because the habit of slipping into that old way of experiencing is so strong that even if momentarily we let go of that sense of separation, after that, the next moment we just build it up again, and out of habit. And so we have to do it again and again and again until it's naturally happening by itself, effortlessly. And then it doesn't matter which pointer you are using, use that pointer that works best for you. It's not that you have to find the magic pointer, and once you have found it, then it works.
But there is not a way to disengage from it?
Sometimes it may disappear. Sometimes when you're really diving into that essence, this whole experience may disappear completely. Like it disappears in deep sleep, but without losing your consciousness. Being conscious of that. But then it reappears again. If we don't create that sense of separation, then that reappearance of this experience is not a problem. And actually, you joyously embrace it. It's not that there is something wrong with it. It's not that somehow this level should not be. It has its purpose. And its purpose is that everybody, every being who connects into this matrix is benefiting from it. And even, and this is true for everybody, even for the greatest masters, they still getting richer through this experience. So there's nothing wrong with that. It's not that we have to somehow destroy this experience and then we are in the absolute. That idea of such an absolute is a mind creation. Don't hold on too much to that one absolute and everything else is false. Just bring the attention to that which makes the experience possible, to that essence. And this essence is not something dead and static and without anything. You may experience sometimes a total emptiness. And it's a wonderful experience when there is simply nothing, because there is still, that emptiness is not empty, it's full of your being alive, of the joyousness of being alive. But then when the experience comes back and the appearance comes there into existence, you more and more you become aware it doesn't matter whether the appearance is there or is not there. It's nothing wrong with that. It's not that we have to somehow destroy this world. It's not that we have to destroy this universe. It's not that we have to destroy this experience, this human experience. It's part of the same, if you want to have that word, it's part of the same absolute. If the absolute could not have that, then it would not be absolute. It's not the absolute versus the relative, but if you want to do justice to the word of absolute, it has to include everything.
When I do a double dezoom or backward traveling,
Yeah.
is it correct? Yes.
It's correct.
It's something click. I remember that movie about Papaji, and we were somebody was watching to the TV, and he was so at the place of the witness, and he was watching a movie, and suddenly we see in this screen another screen of somebody watching the TV, but it's like a double step back.
Yeah.
And I remember also Muji talking about experience of the first and second bird. There is one bird is building a nest, so is the person, and there is another bird, the second bird is witnessing, but he says that something else is watching both of them. And so it's like the witness of the witness. And when this happens, something clicks. I really feel a relief, big relief, and the mind stops and something really stops.
Great. Now, don't jump to the conclusion. Now you have to somehow find a way to completely screen out everything else. Because it will come back anyhow, and then you are always struggling against it. Accept the appearance as an expression of that. You know, when we are identified with the person and then you come back, you step out of that identification with the person, you become aware of a being, but you don't identify it as a being, but you can say of pure consciousness or pure life force or pure love. This is still a manifestation, this is still an expression, but it's the primordial expression. It's the ground out of which the whole rest of the creation comes. You can come to that origin of the creation, to that pure consciousness, and then there is something prior to that pure consciousness.
Yes, there is one step back.
There's absolutely nothing that can be said about it. There's absolutely nothing that you can do about it. What we can do is to learn to come to that pure consciousness, to that first expression, and then not jump to conclusion and say, now I got it and now I'm enlightened and now this is the absolute, but okay, be aware, okay, there is that ominous mystery prior to that.
We are already absolute. We are
that,
already that.
that expression absolute has absolutely no meaning there. It has only meaning as long as the mind is functioning, coming to the source, to the pure consciousness. Prior to that, forget about any such concept of absolute. It doesn't mean anything. It's just there, but you cannot do anything about it. But if you bring your attention and dive into that pure awareness, in that pure existence, again and again, and keep that openness, then somehow it may block you in.
Yes, but to keep this openness in what? In this manifestation. So it means that we still believe in this manifestation and we don't consider it as a dream.
You can tell yourself, okay, it's not as real as it is, but you can also in every moment, instead of being focused on all the details of your experience, use that experience to direct your attention to the source, to that which makes the experience possible. And then you can even give up that whole struggle in the mind. Now, is the world real or is the world not real? It doesn't matter. Even those are just concepts that we are creating, that it's real or it's unreal. But you can use every experience in this mystery manifestation of this world to get lost in the details of the experience, or you can use the experience to reassert that source, that which makes the experience possible. And then just relax, be open and relax. And then sometimes comes a glimpse, there is something totally prior to that. That is actually, it's scary for the mind, because all concepts don't mean anything, including the concept of absolute. Doesn't have any meaning. All the concepts that we are making about holiness and whatever human mind has created doesn't mean anything. And yet, that's where we belong. But we can't do that. We cannot make that conscious jump there. Sometimes it will give you a glimpse, and then you find yourself back in your usual experience, but still you know, there's something ominous, something so totally unexplainable. And then the mind is struggling to try to make theories, to try to explain it and put names on top of it, but then all this doesn't mean anything. Don't put any names there. Come back to that pure consciousness, come back to that pure prana, the force of life. Come back to that pure love, not the emotion love, the pure prema, the pure love. Come back to the purity of any of those, and the other two are included, and that's the source out of which our experience is emerging. And that's as far as we can possibly contribute something. We can point towards that source and then just be open. Many may once in a while get a little glimpse of that which is prior to that pure consciousness. And it's good enough to sustain, be aware that even when consciousness is working and the world is working, there is always that pure consciousness that is even the pure consciousness is unaffected by whatever is going on this material level. And that's all we can do. And those who are permanently in that prior to consciousness, they are extremely rare. But even if you are rooted in that pure consciousness, being aware, there is that which is absolutely unexplainable prior to it. Sometimes it may suck your experience totally in, then you may come again sort of to that threshold, but as long as you are rooted in that pure consciousness, even when you are active, even when you are experiencing things, then you are already free. That freedom of all that attachment is already there. That's as far as we can contribute to it. And then beyond that, there is absolutely nothing the human mind can contribute, can do about it. So it's more than a witness of a witness, because if we create a witness, then we have again created personality. If we create the witness of that witness, we have created a new personality. And then it goes on and on and on, and then you have the witness of the witness of the witness, and then the witness of the witness of the witness of the witness. It's way more than that. It's just absolutely not something we can possibly even hint at. Not even with the word absolute. But we can aim at pure consciousness, pure beingness. That we can aim at. It's even pure consciousness is incomprehensible to the mind. But we can have it as a direction, as a pointer, as a something we can aim at, and eventually we may start to experience it.
Yes.
And when that experience is firmly rooted, then you are free of that attachment, of that delusion, I'm that person. Still, the life story may go on. You playfully play your role, and at the same time, you are always aware there is that aspect in you, that pure beingness, that pure consciousness, that pure love that is not affected by it.
This is what we can call presence.
Yes. Timeless presence, not presence in the sense of as a point in time, but presence as timelessness, prior to time.
So to live from this position is already very good.
It's already your liberated being.
And eventually, one day, oh, okay. Thank you, Werner. Thank you.
Okay, the time
Okay.
has advanced, and since nobody wanted to talk before, then I guess there is not now suddenly a very urgent question there. So we are stopping that satsang for today. It was a bit unusual. I'm going to turn off the recording now.
But see,
Okay.
no.